The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, the space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
And today, we have a question from Joseph, who writes to us from Boston, Massachusetts. And Joseph writes, I see that President Trump will be meeting with the G7. And given the turmoil surrounding the conflict with Iran, I'm curious how the other leaders are likely to respond. What does the panel think they will say to him privately or publicly? And what do you think they should say in light of the current situation? Do you expect any meaningful policy shifts to come out of this meeting, or is this more likely to be a tense diplomatic reset with limited outcomes? I'd be interested in hearing how the panel reads the dynamics heading into this summit. So, Joseph, we have a framework for a peace deal, and it's only a framework, regardless of what Trump says, with Iran. And so, Mark, Scott?
I think that basically says it all. You know, it's a framework. Where's this going to go? I don't know. I don't think the leaders of the G7 have, any more of an idea where this is going to go than anybody else.
I do have a question though. What do you think will happen? Because I know that the Europeans and others, of course, they wouldn't join in with the United States and with Israel. If all this falls apart, the framework and the future negotiations, because of course the two sides, Iran and the United States, are quite far apart, and that has not even been shared. Trump hasn't said anything about where the two parties are. Of course, he makes it sound like everything's rosy and everything else, which is not the case. Do you think that the EU and or Britain would try to get involved directly if there's a return to overt conflict?
Well, I can't predict what another country is going to do. I don't even know what we're going to do. But there is some inkling that if this doesn't work out, and again, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's not a joint treaty or anything like that. It's simply a memorandum of understanding, which seems to me, in my experience of working with European countries, that memorandum of understandings are valued more there than they are here. Here, a guy like Trump will give you a memorandum of understanding and violate it before you've had a chance to finish reading it. In Europe, they tend to be a little bit more honorable and think that a memorandum of understanding is an agreement of sorts. That being said, the leaders of Europe have learned a lesson that I'm sure is going on probably right now. I believe that his plane has landed, and the European leaders, I believe, have greeted him at the airport. And they're all clapping him on the back and shaking his hands and saying, "Good job, sir. You did it," with tears in their eyes. They're saying, "Good, you've got peace." Or, this is the G7. This is an economic meeting, right? This is not NATO. And so what they're interested in is economics. And their economics are hurting really bad because their economics depend on a thimbleful of oil compared to what we do here. We have electricity running wild here. Every building is air conditioned. You go to Europe and it's not like that. The buildings that I have worked in Europe are not air conditioned in the summertime. They have little fans by their desk, and it's hot. It's really hot. and everybody is like, dressed down as best they possibly can be because they don't have the energy to do anything else. They pile onto trains because people don't like to drive there, because even in the good times, a liter of gasoline, or petrol as they like to call it, costs like $9, you know, for a liter. And so we are really spoiled when it comes to electricity and oil in this country, even though, despite the fact that we are oil independent, we are still dependent on mostly Canada and Mexico for providing us with oil for our gasoline for our cars, because our oil is not good for that. So the leaders of the G7 are going to be focused on economics. They're going to be focused, I believe, hopefully, on Ebola. They're going to be focused on this war, this sort of underpinned war, this like subterfuge over mineral rights that Trump and Putin and China have been playing, this game where they're going after mineral rights in other countries, right? Trump told, what country was it, Mark? He told Namibia, was it? Namibia, that you can't have the AIDS drugs from PEPFAR unless you sign over all your mineral rights to us.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that the G7 will be very involved with. Economic imbalances, stability. Business leaders love stability. Business leaders in the government value stability over, doing wildly well. They want a stable, predictable economy that they can count on. Trade, right, is obviously going to be really important. This whole tariff thing, Trump continues to find ways to impose tariffs. He continues to claim inexplicably that these tariffs affect the other countries, which they do, because they find it harder to sell into this market, right? When there are tariffs attached to it. But we, the consumers, importers here, retailers here, we are the ones who are paying that price, not European countries. So I think it's really important, that we take a step back maybe from all the other issues and focus on the economies of the world in the G7 this week. And then supposedly on Friday, there's going to be some kind of signing ceremony that Trump may or may not stick around for, to sign over this deal with Iran. My guess is, my prediction, I guess, would be that he goes home and he sends JD Vance over to sign that deal so that he has plausible deniability when it all goes south.
What do you think Netanyahu is going to do? I don't think that Netanyahu, from what I understand, Netanyahu is not terribly happy about this, because Iran has said no, nothing more. This is supposed to be a permanent ceasefire. That means no Lebanon. That means nothing. And I know Netanyahu is not happy about this. And the other thing, just before I forget, my understanding is that actually Iran has now psychiatrists on their negotiating team, because they're concerned about Trump's mental health. And I'm concerned about the G7 and other individuals or groups like this who are trying to negotiate and trying to have conversations with Trump.
So
they don't have psychiatrists helping them in the background somewhere.
We can go down that road, but I just want to answer the question that you had first. Israel, I believe, is a member of the G7, but they are not invited to this summit. They were not invited. I don't think they've been invited for quite some time. Yeah.
Is that a mistake?
Is it a mistake? Is it a mistake on whose part?
The G7 not to invite them if they're a member.
Yeah. Is it a mistake? That's an interesting question. No, I don't think it's a mistake, because I think Israel has become a pariah state, and they're Israel is going to do what is in the best of interest of Israel. Israel is the ultimate realist when it comes to foreign relations, and they're going to do exactly what they think they have to do, whether they need to do it or not. We can all speculate, but if they believe that they need to do it, they're going to do it. And the G7 is not something that would be high on their radar right now. You know, they want to finish. You know, the Israeli people right now, probably for the first time in a long time since this war in southern Lebanon started again. I think the Israeli people at this point are polling more in the direction of whatever you have to do it as quickly as possible, but do it thoroughly and get it done. And let's get back to regular order because they're sick and tired of missiles and rockets being shot at them. And there would be, if Israel continues to suffer in that way, whether it's from Gaza or whether it's from southern Lebanon, I believe that there would be a mass migration of Israelis out of Israel because it's no longer sustainable, and they just want to get back to their regular business. That, you know, I'm talking about the people, not the government, because the government is right now made up of coalitions that are not mainstream Israelis. And but I believe that they're behind the government at this point, and that the people want this thing over with once and for all. Yeah.
So what does that look like? Whatever you're going to do it thoroughly and do it fast. What does that look like? Because Iran has said this is permanent, and this includes Lebanon, which includes Israel not doing anything else. And Trump has been yelling apparently at Netanyahu, and but Israel is, of course, a sovereign nation and is going to do, as you have indicated, whatever it's going to do. So Trump keeps saying, well, I'm going to control him, and I control, he does what I say.
But he doesn't.
Exactly.
I'm sure Mark will agree with this. Bibi Netanyahu is going to do what's in the best interest of probably Bibi Netanyahu, but I think also Israel over the world, over the United States. They have the tendency to turn into Yad Vashem with the Air Force when it suits their purpose to do so, and when they feel that they're being assaulted from the outside. They have made tremendous strides over the last 10 years in becoming friendlier with the Arab nations that are all around them. They're still sort of fighting in southern Syria, but it's not what it used to be there. They're not fighting the Lebanese government. They're fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. They're, these proxy groups, they feel that they need to take care of them. And when you say, what does that entail? It entails a lot of violence and a lot of buildings being blown to pieces and people being targeted. I'm sure it's an all hands on deck effort, from covert activity to economic activity to military activity to all kinds of spying. We just discovered again that Israel's spying on us once again. That it's a whole of country effort, whole of government effort to do something finally about this, and that they need to rid themselves of these proxy groups and the influence of Iran in their neighborhood.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, baby boomers. This is John Ward. I'm the host of the podcast, Baby Boomers, The Strangest Generation. This is not about hula hoops, banana bikes, or the Partridge Family. It's real, it's raw. It's about growing up in the 70s, drugs, fights, ethnicity, long hair. Give it a listen. Baby Boomers, The Strangest Generation. You won't be disappointed, and it is funny as heck. John Ward, Baby Boomers, The Strangest Generation. Thank you.
Yeah. And yes, I would agree. Netanyahu will do what's good for Netanyahu. Whether that's good for Israel or not, it's a question. Just to clean up a little bit, Israel is not in the G7. They are not even in the G20. The G7 is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Additionally, the EU is involved, but they are a non-enumerated member. But Scott makes a great point. This is about economics. This is who we're talking here. To the question, what should they say to Trump? Boy, you made a mess of world economics. What are you going to do about it? And what's said behind closed doors, we'll never know. I mean, because we'll never get the truth out of any of them. Maybe a leader from the G7, one of the economic ministers will say something, whatever, and give us a little bit more enlightenment into this. But their concern right now is economics. Scott's point of, they met him at the tarmac and pat him on the back and all that other stuff. I think that really is. Let's go back to who Trump is. He likes the adoration. He likes the notoriety. He likes this stuff. Maybe this is just a simple that you would use on a child. Give him some praise so that maybe he continues doing what he's doing. But really the question comes down to with this question is, how important is the United States now to the rest of the world economy? We've always said the United States has been always hugely important when it comes to the world economy. But you see places like Canada, the EU, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom beginning to form new coalitions that don't include the United States. And the Trump going over there, he doesn't know what they're doing in the back rooms. He has no clue, none whatsoever. So a lot of it's going to come down to, I could see the strategy being very simple. We've already got some backroom deals going here. We've pretty much taken the United States out of the equation. However, they are the ones that are responsible for this damn war in Iran, which has caused the prices to go up. Let's just do a little bit of, whatever we have to do just to get him to continue at least doing something moving forward. But as far as the United States is,
buttering
him up. Whatever you got to do. And, that probably new policy. I think if there's new policy coming out of this, very simply, Joseph, I think the new policy has already been decided before we even landed. If there's going to be new policy, because we've shown we are not a reliable partner. And it's about time we got it through our heads that just because we think we're star-spangled wonderful does not mean everybody else thinks that as well. And we may be on the outside looking in. We've said that numerous times here. We may find ourselves on the outside looking in. And as I say, I believe that if there's policy having been made, these other nations have already had that discussion, especially when Canada went to all these other countries and, we're talking to them. So that's where the policy is getting made. This thing here, I think, is more to gauge the temperature of, the disaster to the economics that the war has caused. And that's it. But we'll see down the road. Even let's say this was resolved. Let's just say it was resolved. I think you're going to see a huge change in geopolitics and geoeconomics as it comes to the United States until we get somebody in there that the rest of the world can trust. Not somebody that's threatening Canada, which won't happen. So don't, that ain't going to happen. But Cuba, taking Venezuela. I mean, these kind of things, it makes, and Scott's exactly right. Business leaders want stability. They want to be able to see, here's step A, here's step B. Step C should be next. When you're dealing with Trump, you have no idea what's going to happen next. And so I think they make the policy completely separate of us. And they'll tell him whatever they got to tell him to make him feel better. Or as Brooklyn says, butter him up and send his happy orange ass the hell home. And then the real decisions will probably be made either before or well after.
Well, I was also thinking, Mark, as you were speaking, the rest of the world also wants stability and needs stability.
Absolutely.
And all the difficulties. I mean, climate change and everything that needs to be attended to. And I think that going forward, the United States will be not trusted, even if the next president and the one after that is someone who can be trusted, because there will always be the possibility that the Americans will elect someone who is like this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that right now Biden's 4 years of like relative calm and peace and cooperation looks more like the outlier and less like the remedy that Trump back in just speaks so poorly of the voters of the United States of America that I think people around the world don't understand why we would do this to ourselves and everybody else. And, I concur. I'm with them 100%. By the way, some of the other, Zelensky is joining this meeting, even though Ukraine is clearly not in the G7, but Zelensky was invited. His situation has turned around quite differently from the last meeting that they had. I mean, they're more or less on taking the initiative now in that war against Russia. Although I think Russia is going to continue to throw their people into the meat grinder there with no hesitation. Again, that's polyheuristics. I think, he doesn't care about, he doesn't have voters that are going to hurt him in any way. But also that thanks to Emmanuel Macron, they're talking about social media, which we talked about in an earlier podcast. They're talking about social media and AI at the G7. That's a major topic. So we'll see if anything comes out of that, but it probably won't affect us one way or another.
No, probably not.
Yeah. So thank you, Joseph. Yep. Thank you for your questions.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium dedicated to providing solutions to social and political issues for NGOs and international government agencies. Through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research, the Phoenix Research Group advances understanding and practical strategies for complex challenges. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.